And we will move on to Chavov Omid Aleph. We started this point last week. Let's just remind ourselves where we're up to. Remember the Mishnah, this is quite important, which spoke, when we're now talking about the actual shofar itself. And we learned, Kol ha-shofaros kasherim chutz mishel para. Remember that was the Mishnah, where according to the Tanna Kama, we'll have to see how this develops into the halacha, but at the moment it sounds like every horn can be used for the shofar, besides that of a para, ox, cow, mipnei shehu keren. It's not called a shofar, it's called a keren, and we want the word shofar to be used. We found a psukim actually relating to the Jubilee, but it's the Jubilee Yom Kippur, which is very special. There's also a shofar sounded there. Ba'avatum, we've got that same word shofar being used. That word, that's where we learn that in fact, because all the sounds are similar, whether it's Jubilee or Rosh Hashanah every year, and the word used is shofar. And if you look, you do not find the word when you're talking about, you specifically find the word keren, which is used in reference to para. Rabbi Yossi disagrees, and he says the other way around. You find also a ram's horn is called a keren. There's nothing wrong with using the word keren, and therefore Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that in fact you can even use the horn of an ox, cow. We'll now find some other reasons, develop some other reasons. That's the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Abaya Omar. Have you got that? Abaya Omar. 10, actually medium-sized lines up there. They've got actually 3 sides of lines here. The beginning of the line is Kol ha-shofaros. So what can I say? 15 lines up from the bottom, where it says Kol ha-shofaros. I don't know if you got that. Good, some nodding. Then there's a full stop, or if there isn't, 3 words from the end of that line. Abaya Omar. Abaya says, I've got another reason. Well, we'll have to see if this is another reason or instead of or what. And we mentioned this last week. Sorry, I've gone far too far down. We're much further up where it says Ula Omar. That is going to be the view that we need to look at in due course. That's Abaya. But first, beginning of the line is Ula, just under halfway down the page. Got that? Good. Thumbs up. Ula Omar. Hainu Tama D'Rabbanan. This is the reason of the Rabbanan. What are we looking for? Why is it that the horn of a cow or a bull cannot be used? Says the Gemara in the name of Ula, Kuta Rav Chisda. There's a general principle of Rav Chisda. The Omar Rav Chisda, we're going to use a principle and develop it for the shofar. But first of all, the general principle. Why is it that the Kohen Gadol has special 4 white, well, certainly not golden, clothes that he wears, lifnai v'lifnim? Of course, Yom Kippur, the only day of the year where he goes into the Kodesh Kadoshim. The Oren is there. That is the only time he alone can go into the area of the Kodesh Kadoshim, but he does not wear his normal famous Shmona Begodim, they're called, the 8 clothes of a Kohen Gadol. He doesn't wear those clothes when he goes into the inner sanctum, when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, why does he not? Ein Kohen Gadol nichnas, enters, beginning of the line. The big days of lifnai v'lifnim, deep into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, la'avoid avoda, to do the special worship, the way he's worshipping, if you like, or the avoda that started taking place on Yom Kippur, the fisha ein katega nase sanega. The accuser does not come in and act as the defendant. What we're trying to say when we're asking for a kapara, this is Yom Kippur, we want to show that we have nothing to do with trying to remove the idea of the gold. What's the gold? The gold reminds us perhaps of the Egel Hazov, the golden calf. And therefore, for that reason, if you can see Rashi there again, Ein Katega, beginning of the line, just over halfway down the page. Ein Katega, which is the Zohov or Egel, the gold of the golden calf. Now this is the crucial piece here. So what's the answer? Ula says, just like we find this general principle, ein kategar nase sanega, don't use something which was used negatively as an accuser, don't use that item in defense. So gold from the golden calf, not used in defense when coming on Yom Kippur to do the avodah inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says Rashi, the same principle with the shofar. The shofar you don't want to take from a cow or an ox. Why not? What will it remind us of? It will remind us of a young cow, a young ox. And what is that? That's a calf. Says Rashi, shofar shel paranami katega. Taking a shofar from the mother, the father of the animal, which was the calf, is something we don't want to do. The egelhu, you with me? We do not want to take, says Ulla, a shofar, a horn from an animal which we use, sadly, for the golden calf. That ein katega nase sanega. We want to keep far away from that item. And therefore, says Ulla, that is the reason why. We do not take something which reminds us, just like we saw the gold in the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, there is gold, so those he does not wear on Yom Kippur when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Similarly, we do not use the horn of the animal, albeit it's now the mature, grown-up calf, but we do not take the horn of an animal which initially was a calf and now moved on, because in katega nase sanega, we do not use an item which was used negatively when we're coming to ask for kapara, forgiveness, asking for this good year, to show that we've distanced ourselves from that. We ein katega nase sanega. Says the Gemara. Just 1 minute. What is this principle of ein katega nase sanega? V'loi. Have you got the Gemara there? V'loi with a question mark. Is that not true? Actually, no, better translate below. Is ein katega nase sanega? Is that true that you can't, below, you can't have an accuser acting in defense? Oika dam pa. What about the blood of the pa? Which pa? There we are. We've got an ox, and we're going to bring the blood of this ox and it's going to be brought into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now, Peter, if I can trouble you, please. And let's have a posuk from the beginning of Acharei Mos, which is Vayikra Leviticus 16, 17, chapter 16. Let's go to Tanakh. And go to posuk 14 in Leviticus. So chapter 16. Thank you. Posuk 4, oh, there we go. Posuk 14, a bit of scrolling. Now, 1 minute, let's go back a little bit. Let's find out the animals that are brought. Here we are. Have a look at Posuk 3. I've gone a bit too far. Posuk 3, just to show you what happens. This is talking about Aaron and his capacity as Kohen Gadol. But of course, the same thing happens to every Kohen Gadol. Posuk 3, Bezos Yobai. And Bezos Yobai Aaron Lakudish Bapar Ben Pokar Lachatos. He brings a bull, herd, as a sin offering, a ram for burnt offering. Okay? Now, what is going to happen to that par? Keep going. Posuk 6. V'hikrib Aarones hapar chatos hashelo. It's going to offer it, which will act as a kapora. Now, go back one posuk. Umeyes b'nei Yisrael yikach shnei seiri izim. 2 he-goats, sin offering ba'ayel echad la'olah. Okay, but he is bringing a par as a sin offering from Aaron. Now, scroll down to posuk 14. V'lokach midam hapor. He's going to take this blood from the bull, been shechted, v'hizot, sprinkling with his finger, al panei hakaporis, wow, over the cover, the kaporis on top of the oren, which is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Kedma, the east side. V'lifnei hakaporis yazeh sheva pa'omim. There's various sprinklings going on 7 times from that blood with his finger. Which blood are we talking about here? We're talking about the blood of the par, which is a bull, and it's being taken inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Back to our Gemara, please. Thank you very much, Peter. We'll come back. We don't scrub that. We'll need that shortly.
Yeah, sure.
More psukim coming. Good to see you, Michael. Got Robert with us as well. So where are we up to here? You may, Peter, want to put people on mute. Of course, people can come off mute whenever they like. So where are we up to? We're up to the principle. What's the principle here? We've got a principle. Ein katega nase sanega. The accuser is not used in defense. If it's a real lahavdil, those people in attack, let them stay in attack. Those people defending, they should remain behind defending. We don't want to use something which was used to accuse us, as it were, in defense as well. That's why the Kohen Gadol doesn't wear his golden clothes or clothes that have gold in them, right? Says the Gemara, now back to below again. Or Ika, beginning of line is Ika, just over halfway down the page. Or Ika dam par. What about that blood that Peter showed you? The blood from the ox. And don't forget again, the ox is of the mature calf. Goes from calf up to cow or ox. And we were very concerned not to take the horn, the shofar, from this ox, because it reminds us of the young ox. In other words, we talk about the calf, the golden calf. So therefore the shofar is not brought, according to the Chachamim, from an ox. Says the Gemara, what about the blood? For we could par. Are you not going to be taking, or Kohen Gadol will take the blood of the ox and sprinkle it inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim? What's the difference between that and the clothes that he wears? That the Gemara says that reason he does not wear his golden clothes when he comes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, no, that's different. Why? Hoel ve'ishtani, ishtani like a shinui. There's been a major change. This blood was part of the animal. After the shechting and taking the blood, you really can't discern that it's part of that animal at all. There's a major change there. Have a look at Rashi, please. Hoel ve'ishtani. It's changed. It was part and parcel of the animal, and now you've shechted it and you've got the blood. You really can't compare the blood to part of that animal, and therefore there's no real reminder of the actual animal itself. The shofar is rather different. It comes from, it's noticeable on the animal. Therefore, you're taking part of the animal, a very clear part of this animal, to use on Rosh Hashanah. So for Ein Katega Nasa Sanega. The gold.
There's another thing, Norm, the golden calf was an Eger, was a Bas Shana, or it was a year old, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But we're saying
a par is 3 years old.
Animal of the calf.
What's this between a par and a shah? Par and shah both mature, aren't they?
Yeah, par is a mature. Rather than shiur, the word shiur actually means the species, and it can be very young too. But here it's got to be a par. Yeah. So that would be an older animal. It doesn't matter. You're taking the blood of this older animal, says the Gemara, but it's not discernible at all as part of an animal. You've just got blood. Whereas if you take the horn, it's very clear it's from the animal, the ox, and therefore it is the mature calf, and therefore you can't use that. That's what the Gemara says here. Hoil be ishtani. So therefore the Gemara is quite happy now that we've got this principle. The Ein Katega Nasa Sanega. And that's the same with the shofar. Says Gemara, I haven't finished yet. A few more questions. Up the sleeve of the Gemara. What about the Oroin and the Kapores and the Kruv? What's the Kruv? Well, the Oroin we know. That's the actual, we talk about the Oron Kodesh inside the Beis HaMikdash. The Ark, the Holy Ark. We've got the actual Kapores. What's the Kapores? Like the top. Yeah. And we've got the Kruv, which is the name for the two Kruvim on top of the Oron. Yes. What were these three things made of? Silver? No. The Oron, the Kruv, and the Kapores are all made of gold. I thought we said we didn't want the Kohen Gadol to wear gold inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Ein Katega Nasa Sanega. How come these items can therefore be inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim? In fact, they're there the whole time, but they're there on Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, Chote Bal Yakriv Ko'omrinon. We're not talking about items which are inside the Mishkan, inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. We're talking about the person who is trying to bring the kapora to Klal Yisrael. A chote, a sinner, we're all part of that sin of the golden calf. Bal Yakriv, that's what he mustn't. The person seeking the kapora, that individual cannot wear gold. But if you've got items in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's fine. So it's chote bal yikrov komrino. Okay? That answers that question. Please have a look at Rashi. Chote bal yakriv. Have you got the Rashi? Ha'odom lo yakrivenu haloim. The man, he shouldn't come forward as trying to bring a kapora, being makriv, this animal or any other korban. Shehu chotobai. The individual mustn't come there. The individual who's done the Aveira, or certainly in the case of Aaron, he was part of the Egel Azov. But it doesn't matter, it's all part of Klal Yisrael. They cannot wear gold. The Kohanim can't wear gold. But as we said here, the Kapores, the actual Oren itself, the Keruvim on top, remember these are the two, we're talking about cherub-like. Actually, they look like young children. They were on top, they were made of gold, but that's fine. They are not bringing the kapora for Klal Yisrael. Okay. Says the Gemara, but we've got an item which actually is bringing the kapora. What's that? For ho'ika kaf umachto. What's this kaf umachto? I'm afraid back to Peter, if you don't mind. Back to chapter 16. Have you got chapter 16? And here we're looking at Pasuk 12. Right, here we are, Pasuk 12. Now, Volokach, he's going to take Meloi Hamachta, a pan full, or shovel full of Gachale Eish. These are fiery coals, I suppose you'd say, Gachale Eish. He says here, glowing coals. So he's taking these fiery, glowing coals, May al mizbeach, from the mizbeach, u'meloi chofnov keturis samim, and it's like a cup. It's really a handful, but cupped keturis samim dako, fine ground incense. Behavi mi base laporoichis. He's going to take this in as well. What is he taking in? He's got these fiery coals, plus also a handful of finely ground incense. And that, where will he place them? He will place them in this, as we've said here, he translated as a pan. Yeah? Pop previous post again. So we've got this pan, and we've got like the shovel. We've got like a ladle full of the incense plus the fiery coals. Now back to our Gemara. So he's going to take two items. We've got this pan and this like ladle, one with the coals and one with the incense, and he's carrying them in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim as part of the work and the Avodah of Yom Kippur. Now, 1 minute, what are they made of? They're made of gold. Now, prior to this, we said it's all very well, the actual ark itself made of gold, but that's not part of the kapora process. The Kohen Gadol wearing his begodim, that's rather different. Says the Gemara, but we've got the pan and we've got the ladle. They're made of gold and they're being brought in as part of the kapora process. Gold. Now, 1 minute, gold doesn't gold remind us of the golden calf. It does for the begodim, for the Kohen Gadol. So why are these two items different? Good question. Back to our Gemara. Beginning line is Yakriv. Says the Gemara, I've got the word Yakriv, 3 words in. Bo'ika kaf umachto. You've got the ladle, and you've also got this pan, and they're being brought in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they're made of gold. Why is that different to the golden clothes, or the clothes that have gold in, that the Kohen Gadol has to wear? Says the Gemara, no. It's true, they're part of this kapara that's taking place via or through the Kohen Gadol, but chote bal yisnoeh ka'omrino. The sinner should not adorn himself with something which was used as part of the Avera of the golden calf. We're not talking about the sinner here. He's bringing in this ladle and the basin, they're of gold, but he's not beautifying himself. He's not adorning himself by wearing them. There's a very big difference wearing something and getting this, as we say, hisnoia, beautifying, adorning himself by wearing gold. That he mustn't do. But to utilize it as part of the kapora, that would be okay. We haven't finished yet. Says the Gemara. Just 1 minute. You said that we are very concerned about the Kohen Gadol, what he wears on Yom Kippur, and that's why when he goes inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he doesn't wear his gold. Says the Gemara, but there are other occasions on Yom Kippur that he wears his golden clothes. Says the Gemara, Ho'ika bigdei zov mipachutz. When he does the avodah outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is the normal general avodah, like the Talmud in the morning, the Talmud in the afternoon, the Musaf offering, there he changes his clothes and goes back to his normal Shmona Megodim, in which there is gold. Why is that permitted on Yom Kippur? Says the Gemara, Mibifnim ka'omrina. We're only talking about activities which were right inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. At that point, he cannot beautify himself with anything which reminds us of the golden calf, because in Katega Naasesene, you with me? So therefore it's true that there are lots of things, activities that the Kohen Gadol does outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, wearing his clothes which have gold in them. But that's because it's not inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's this Kodesh HaKadoshim, the real source, the central point of the whole Beis HaMikdash or the Mishkan. The Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's where he must not go wearing anything as a reminder of the golden calf. Okay, so we've answered lots of questions about the Kohen Gadol. One of the answers we said was we're only talking about being in the Kodesh HaKadoshim with something which reminds us of the Egel Azov. Now, just 1 minute. Why did we bring this principle of Ein Katega Nasa Sanega, focusing on the Kohen Gadol? Because we wanted to answer, why is it with the shofar can't be of the horn of an ox. Why not? Because Ein Katega Nasa Sanega. But we just said that principle only applies in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, shofar nami mi bachutz hu, beginning of the line. Yeah, good question. We've just said that the principle of Ein Katega Nasa Sanega only applies in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, not outside. Or just 1 minute, where do people blow a shofar? Do people blow a shofar in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? No. We blow a shofar anywhere, even in London. Anywhere, we blow the shofar. Why can the shofar therefore not be from an ox, a mature calf, really? You're not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is a very powerful answer. Says the Gemara, have you got it? The line is who? Kiven de lezikoroin hu kibifnim domi. Wow, what does that mean? It's coming as a reminder of Klal Yisrael, a shofar. Look at Rashi, please. Kiven de lezikoroin kosi kilifnim domi. It's as if is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Look at this. Rashi. Shofar nami, the shofar as well. Afal gad belespe mishum choyte bal yakriv. Is not actually utilizing it to look for a kapara. It's not as if he's wearing this. That's true. But seeing as it's coming as a kapara, because with that the tefillas will rise. A lot of these things we don't understand. The tefillas are rising through the shofar. Kabikdei kohen gadol. Shelifnim domim. Wow. It's as if it's the Kohen Gadol inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now, Peter, can I trouble you again? This time for our Gemara on Sefaria. And let's see if we can find a very interesting Ritva who adds
Norman, is this phrase the Chote Bal Yakriv? Is this a Pasuk or a Gemara phrase?
That's a Gemara phrase.
Chote Bal Yiskoya, because I didn't.
Chote Bal Yakriv. That's, in other words, that's the answer to this question.
No, I understand. I just wondered what the source.
Yes, no.
Pasuk. It's not.
Yes, no. So back to Rosh Hashanah, and on our page 26a, we got there. Scroll down to this piece. Kolashu Forest. Now, just hold on. Or press on there. Let's have a look at some of the proportions.
What's it mean?
I'm looking for the Ritva. 14th century commentary by Yontov Ben Avram Ashbili, the Talmud of the Rajba. So we're talking about 14th century Ritva.
He was Sfardi then.
Yeah, Ishbili, yeah.
Yeah, fine. It's not.
You press on there, it may give you some more information. No, it goes straight to the Pirish. Okay, we can look him up in a minute. So that's what I want. Look at the last part of that. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, the 3 lines up. Hi shofar. Kiven de lezikoroin osi. It's coming, reminding, if you like, a zikoron of Klal Yisrael. Ulahachnis tfiloson shel Yisrael lifnai v'lifnim. Wow. It's taking those tefillos, the shofar, ba'meh ba'shofar, bringing them up, lifnai v'lifnim. Here we're talking about up into the great heights. Yeah? Kilifnim domi. That's an additional point he's making there. It brings all those tefillos and takes them up on high. The shofar brings the tefillos. It's as if it's being worn like the big day kahuna inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Kilifnai v'lifnim domi. Wow, that's the Ritva. If we go back to our Gemara, please.
So who's the Zikaron for us? I've lost that.
Zikaron of Klal Yisrael.
It's
taking obviously the Zikaron means hopefully as bringing up their good deeds of Klal Yisrael.
Yeah.
And their tefillos, and they're all being taken, if you like, together through the shofar. They are taken lifnai v'lifnim in Shomayim, and that's an equivalence to the Kohen
being the
Gadol
Kodesh
on Yom
HaKadoshim.
Kippur.
Okay.
Wow. So very powerful. I don't think we've got anybody who's a Baal Tokea here, but the Baal Tokea, therefore, according to this, sounds like he's equivalent to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, and he does the same job. He's taking, as part of his community, whichever community he's part of, Kohen Gadol, of course, representing the whole of Klal Yisrael. Here we have a Baal Tokea representing the people he's blowing for, and in that particular shul, he is acting according to this Rashi, and perhaps an extra word or two in that Ritva, he's acting as a Kohen Gadol, and it's equivalent to him being in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And therefore, that's the point. Let me just explain. We said that this principle of Ein Katega Nasa Sanega only applies inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And that's why the Kohen Gadol himself could wear his Shmone Begodim, which include gold, outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So we asked, if that's the case, why did we try and answer up the shofar not coming from this horn of the mature calf? There's nothing wrong with that. We don't blow it inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, yes, you do. It's equivalent. Well, that's someone feel a bit of fear into the Kohen Gadol, into the Baal Tokea. He is equivalent to a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur because he's taking up the tefillos of his particular community, and hopefully l'tov for them in every possible way. So he is like acting as the Kohen Gadol inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Wow. Not enough to frighten any budding Baal Tokea.
Normally, I thought the shofar was about inspiring prayer rather than delivering it, so to speak.
You are right. You are absolutely right. We've seen earlier Gemaras which mention your point. It's inspiring people, but part of that inspiration is not only hopefully the feelings that yes, we're trying to move onwards and upwards ourselves, that yes, you've got that inspiration, but it also takes the tefillos. Remember we mentioned about Zichronos, Malchias, Zichronos, and Shofars, and then the Gemara says, Ba'meh ba'shofar, with the shofar. So the shofar is acting in a double capacity here. It's inspiring everybody, hopefully, and then capturing all the tefillos and taking them, hopefully that's again for the individual to take note, the power of the shofar. So yes, it works together. It inspires people, but it's that inspiration will also help. Therefore, when they're done, that's another reason, of course, why we do blow the shofar before the Amidah, to get that inspiration before we daven. And then we've got the blowing during the Amida, the repetition of the Amida. That inspiration, hopefully that we're trying to improve it, move onwards and upwards. That will then go together with those tefillahs, the particular special long Rosh Hashanah Amida. Those tefillahs then will be taken as we look hopefully forward, for positive answer for our tefillahs. So yeah, very good point. So we have now answered why we've got the shofar, why the shofar is not from the animal, which is the mature calf. Well, we've done a great job, says Ulla. In fact, the Gemara says, but that's not what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah says something different. Says the Gemara, for Tana, we've learnt in the Mishnah, Mipnei Shehu Keren Ka'oma. The Mishnah, Kol HaShofaros Kasherim Chutz Mishel Torah, Mipnei Shehu Keren. It's a Keren. Do you remember? The answer the Mishnah gave was, we want something called a shofar. You never find the word shofar with a horn of a shor, an ox, or cow. It's called a keren. Says the Gemara, Chodo ba'oid ka'oma. Wow. There are two reasons. Chodo de'en katega nasa sanega. Ba'oid, furthermore, mipnei shehu keren. Yes, Mishnah's mentioning one, and now Ulla has mentioned another reason. Could be a slight weakness in the answer mentioned in our Mishnah. As we saw, Rabbi Yossi answers back and said, but it's called keren, and even the ram's horn is called a keren. And if a shofar coming from an ox is called a keren, that should be good enough. So there's a little bit of a weakness in the answer of the Mishnah. The Tanakama holds of it, but we've got an additional reason, a support as well, why we don't blow the shofar coming from the ox. Says the Gemara, that is so powerful. But what about Rabbi Yossi? If you remember, Rabbi Yossi says, you can. Says the Gemara of Rabbi Yossi, what will he do? Or Malacha, he'll tell you, if you remember, Ein Katega Nasa Sanega, this principle of Ein Katega Nasa Sanega, Rabbi Yossi, do you not subscribe to that principle? Says the Gemara, no, you know what Rabbi Yossi will say? Hani mili bibifnim. Do you remember? That was a question we had, which we gave this most beautiful answer, that blowing the shofar is like being inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says Rabbi Yossi, I know it's like, but it's not. It's not mamish inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, is it? Says the Gemara, Hani mili b'mifnim, Hai shofar mibachutu. It really is outside. You with me? We gave an answer before when we said it's an equivalence. Blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is like being inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And therefore, you can't use a shofar from an ox. Says Rabbi Yossi, I know you say it's like, but you're not actually in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, are you? And if you're not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, therefore it's perfectly in order to use a shofar, just like the Kohen Gadol himself. On Yom Kippur does avodah outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim wearing clothes with gold. Similarly, you are permitted to use the shofar of this animal. Says the Gemara, Udaka Omras, Mipnei Shehu Keren. And it's got another answer back to the Tanakama. You said it's called a Keren. Kol HaShofaros Nami Ikru Keren. All the shofars are called keren. A keren is equivalent to shofar, says the Rabbi Yossi, and therefore the conclusion is the following. According to the Tanna Kama, you cannot use a shofar from the ox. Why not? Because ein katega nasa sanega. And this applies even if you're outside for the shofar, because it's like being inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says Rabbi Yosef, it might be like, but it's not exactly the same. As it's not exactly the same inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you are permitted to use the shofar from the ox. It's called a keren anyway, and even a ram's horn is called a keren, so that's fine. So we still have this machlokas. We haven't got to the conclusion yet between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yossi as to whether this horn will be permitted. And with that, gentlemen, we will close for today. Abai has got another reason, and as we extend this, as it moves on, until we get to the end and decide whether or not this horn of an ox is permitted. And with that, gentlemen, I wish you well. You'll be pleased to know we're getting closer this Shabbos. What do I mean by that? At least the Haftarah is the same, as it's the first week of the 3 weeks, reminding us of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. We're looking forward to Pekora Biyomenu. We've got the Haftarah in Eretz Yisrael the same as you have in Chutzlaretz, although the Seder is different. We're learning Matas, you're learning Pinchas. Next week, all being well, we'll all join up together. You'll have a double parsha, and we'll only have one here in Eretz Yisrael, and then we'll all be together.
Why did we do that before?